No, I think, the other networks are trying to make it sound like Donald Trump is paranoid.
Guys, I don't want to jump on you here, but hang on, I beg you here. I apologize, but Sean Spicer might be commenting on this right now.
I think that what we did was completely legal. In accordance with the law and in accordance with the U.S. Code. I think we had a setback at the court, and we had to make a decision ultimately about how to pursue what the president felt was in the best interest of keeping the nation safe. I mean, that's it. And again, I think our ultimate goal would have been to, if possible, pursue both tracks. I think ultimately the advice that the president received was that in order to protect the country as thoroughly as possible and as quick as possible was to pursue this track.
But it doesn't seem like the only setback initially was the fact that you had court challenges. It was the fact that you had people working at these agencies who didn't know how this was supposed to be implemented. It was the fact that you had members of Congress furious at you guys because they didn't know what was coming. They didn't know what to say to their constituents who were calling. I mean, weren't those things you guys could have ironed out the first time around? I mean, was that part of a learning curve?
I think one of the things that we discussed at the time that happened was there was an element of surprise that benefited our country's safety. We lost that after the Ninth Circuit ruled the way that it did, and I think our goal was to make sure that we use that time to ensure the most effective implementation, which I think you're seeing by all accounts today. It was extremely well received. The departments that are primarily responsible, State, Justice, and Homeland Security, have done a phenomenal job of both briefing their staff, briefing members of Congress, briefing outside stakeholders, and briefing the media. And so when I think you look at this rollout of how this was done, it was done extremely effectively. There's a 10-day window to ensure that it goes into effect March 16th, so that down government, if you will, agencies and employees have the opportunity to make sure that they know what's expected to them and how to implement it effectively. But obviously, we continue to believe that the way it was done the first time would have secured the country to the greatest possible degree.
Sean, you said during the gaggle that it was Saturday night that the decision was made to
I think this is a gaggle too.
Revoke the initial order and not to challenge it in court anymore. Was that when the president gave his final sign-off on the language?
Was. Yeah.
And can you talk also about what's an area in which the congressional consultation is reflected in the final order in which their input was made?
That's a good question. But so Saturday night, yes, he met with his team, Secretary of Homeland Security, Attorney General, senior members of the White House legal staff, his policy team, where they hashed out the final details of what it would look like and how it would be rolled out. The president gave the rest of the staff here the go-ahead to move forward. And then again, I think there were several contacts with members of Congress and other outside stakeholders that were taken into consideration since the Ninth Circuit ruled, but I'm not going to get into specific details.
You talked about how he's often made some last-minute changes in the language. Was there suggestions that he made Saturday night that you're aware of that may have?
It's not just the language, but I think how we pursued, what strategy we pursued, and how we rolled it out.
Sean, on the president's Exxon tweets just a few moments ago, Exxon says in its press release that the investments began in 2013 and are expected to last through 2022. So is the White House taking credit for an Exxon investment program that began under President Obama?
The Exxon made it clear to the White House and to the president that because of his policies that they continue to expand their investment. It is on information that has been provided to us by Exxon that is about the number of jobs and investments they're going to make in America that we go off. It is so it's off of. I understand that, Eamon. What I'm telling you is to answer your question. It is on information that Exxon provided us that they believe based on what they see as a favorable business climate from the president and a commitment to help manufacturing grow here and a commitment to American workers, that they want to grow their investment here in the country. But it is based on them telling us that they will continue to expand based on the president's vision and philosophy to help keep jobs here in America, obtain a more regulatory and tax business environment that will help them hire more, invest more, and grow more here in America.
Sean, on the ACA, how great are the legislative challenges for the administration on the ACA? We're probably going to see language soon.
Yeah.
And is the Easter recess a fair estimate of when you think you can get that through both chambers?
I think that's probably a target. Obviously, it's not just. There's obviously a lot of concern right now. Obamacare is failing on its own. The premiums are going sky high. People are paying more and more and getting fewer and fewer choices. The plans that they may have belonged to a few years ago are no longer available. The doctors that were part of those plans are no longer part of it. And the premiums that they're paying continue to rise by a lot more than anybody ever expected. So this isn't just an area that's important to us getting through. It's important for every American family, every American worker who their health care is obviously an important part, but also the cost of their health care and where it fits into their families or their individual's budget. That's something that the president's made clear. He didn't have to do this. Politically, the smart move might have been to just let it go, but he obviously recognized that that this is the right thing to do for the country. It's the right thing to do for the American people. That for so many people, that health care piece of their daily budget, their monthly budget, is growing so big that it's making them very hard for them to make key choices about what's important for their life. So that's where it has to go. Thank you guys very much. Sorry, Zeke. Hold on, Zeke.
One on the, can you talk about who inside the West Wing was involved in ingesting the implementation, and on the investigation in Congress and on the Russia hacking, and then now at the White House's request, some other actions by the Obama administration. If asked to testify, would the president consider testifying?
Oh, I don't know. That hasn't happened. I think we want the House and Senate Intelligence Committees to look into this, and we haven't had that request yet. I wouldn't even dare to suggest that I know the answer to that one at this point. I think on the first part, I think, as I've mentioned before, I mean, there was a lot of obviously involvement in the Domestic Policy Council, a lot of involvement with the Department of Homeland Security and their supported agencies, Department of State, Secretary Tillerson on down. There was some input from the Department of Defense and obviously the Department of Justice. We're all intimately involved in but they're the domestic policy team here. But I'd say the quarterback on this issue was the Department of Homeland Security. But again, I think that it was a lot of interagency work between those folks, Secretary Kelly, Secretary Tillerson, Attorney General Sessions, all working together with input from everyone from Secretary Mattis to other department heads and agency heads that helped craft this in coordination with the Domestic Policy Council here at the White House. Thank you guys very much.
Can we get a bonus on healthcare? One more on how you bring Rand Paul in?
All right. I apologize to Rachel and Scott, my remaining panelists. But Rachel, I interrupted you. Obviously, the president is still thinking, and through Sean Spicer, insisting that his latest vetting attempt, the second time, will be the charm. But all of this sort of overshadowed today by this allegation that Barack Obama personally led an effort to tap his phones at the Trump Tower. Now, without any apparent proof, but he might know something, and of course this was touched on by Sean Spicer. That would be up to committees investigating. What do you think of that?